You're in the wrong section, sweetie. Economy's in the back. Dean Sampson looked up at the flight attendant blocking his path to first class. He was 12, dressed in an Armani Junior suit, holding a boarding pass that clearly read, Seat 2A, First Class, Flight 447, Atlanta to New York. This is my seat, ma'am, Dean said, offering the pass. Karen, her name tag glinted under the cabin lights, took it and scrutinized it like evidence at a crime scene. Where'd you get this? Who bought it? The airline, when I checked in. She didn't look convinced. Brad, she called toward the galley. Need you to verify something. This doesn't look right. Passengers turned. Dean felt their stares, the unspoken question hanging in the recycled air. Does he really belong here? He kept his chin level. His father, Michael Sampson, had taught him early. Dignity isn't given, it's kept, especially when others try to take it. But for now, he simply waited while strangers decided whether a black child in expensive clothes deserved to sit in first class. Dean moved past Karen to seat 2A with the deliberate calm his father demonstrated in boardrooms. He stored his messenger bag overhead, settled by the window, and pulled out his iPad Pro and AirPods Max. Code from his latest AI project filled the screen. A text from his father appeared. Excited for your presentation tonight, son. Show them what brilliance looks like. Dean smiled. Tonight wasn't just conference attendance. He was speaking on the Youth Innovators panel about AI applications in service industry equity. At 12 years old. Excuse me, Karen's voice cut through. She stood in the aisle, hand on hip, professional mask slipping. I'm still waiting on confirmation for your ticket. Dean removed one AirPod. Ma'am, I showed you my boarding pass. It's valid. Honey, 15 years doing this job. I know when something's off. She glanced at the businessman in 3C, white, 50s, absorbed in his Wall Street Journal. Sir, I apologize for the disturbance. We're handling a situation. The man looked up briefly, scanned Dean with quick assessment, returned to his paper. His silence said everything. Karen's voice dropped to a stage whisper that carried, Where are your parents? Does your mother know you're here alone? You're what, 10 years old? 12. I'm traveling alone legally with proper documentation from check-in. Legal doesn't mean appropriate. First class is for business travelers who need to work, rest, not for unsupervised children playing around. A younger flight attendant approached with pre-departure beverages. She offered orange juice to 3C, champagne across the aisle, then moved toward Dean with a smile. Don't bother, Karen interrupted, blocking her colleague. He won't be staying in this section. The younger woman's eyes widened. But his boarding pass is being verified. Karen cut her off. We maintain cabin standards. Dean's fingers moved to his iPad, opening a new note. 7:42 a.m. Flight 447. Karen Mills refused service, questioned legal status without cause. He'd learned from his father, when words fail, let evidence speak. Karen leaned closer, voice honeyed with false concern. Sweetheart, I'm trying to help. These tickets cost thousands of dollars. Your family might not understand you could get in serious trouble if this wasn't purchased properly. Was it bought with someone's credit card? Maybe someone you met online? The implication struck like a slap. Dean's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed measured. My ticket was purchased through legitimate channels. I have full documentation. I'm sure you think so, Karen said, clearly disbelieving. Behind them, an older black woman in 4B had been watching. She caught Dean's eye, gave a subtle nod. I see you. I've been you. No solution, but acknowledgement. Karen straightened, smoothing her uniform. I'm speaking with the captain about this. Don't get comfortable. Dean added to his notes. 7:48 a.m. Implied ticket fraud and criminal activity without factual basis. Escalated to captain. His phone buzzed. His father. Everything okay? Location shows you're still at the gate. Dean's thumbs hovered. One call from Michael Sampson would end this immediately. But he'd watched his father build an empire while people assumed he didn't belong. The most powerful response to prejudice wasn't immediate revelation. It was patient documentation. Just delayed boarding, Dean typed. All good, Dad. The PA crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, minor delay due to boarding verification. We'll have you airborne shortly. Through the forward galley, Dean saw Karen talking animatedly with a tall man in senior flight attendant uniform. Brad, his name tag read. Brad's eyes found Dean, and something hardened in his expression. Dean saved his notes, backed them to the cloud, put his AirPods back in. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the effort of staying composed when every instinct screamed this wasn't fair. He was 12 years old, sitting in a seat he'd legally paid for, heading to speak about fighting discrimination in service industries. The irony wasn't lost on him. The plane pushed back 15 minutes late. Dean kept his AirPods in, watching Karen and Brad confer in the galley, glancing his way repeatedly. After takeoff, the seatbelt sign chimed off. Karen moved through first class with her service cart. Coffee for 3C, warm nuts for the woman across the aisle, attentive smiles for everyone. She passed Dean's row without stopping. Dean pressed his call button. The light blinked. He waited. 1 minute. 2, 5, 10. Karen finally appeared. Yes? May I have orange juice, please? Her lips thinned. We're out. Dean had watched her serve orange juice to 3 passengers 5 minutes ago. Water would be fine. I'll see what I can find. She returned with a plastic cup, not the glass tumblers others received, and set it down hard enough that water sloshed onto his tray. 8:15 a.m. 10-minute response time. Refused OJ despite serving others. Plastic cup versus glass, Dean typed into his notes. Could I get breakfast service? He asked. Karen stopped mid-turn. Breakfast hasn't started. Dean gestured toward 3C's omelet and fruit. It looks like he pre-ordered. Special meal request. You'll wait for general service. Her smile was cold. That's how the system works. Dean photographed his empty tray and 3C's full breakfast. 8:25 a.m. Denied breakfast. Claimed service hasn't started despite actively serving others. The black woman from 4B raised her hand. I'm ready to order breakfast too. Not doing general service yet, Karen repeated mechanically. You'll wait your turn. The woman's jaw tightened. Her eyes met Dean's, recognition of a familiar pattern. Brad emerged from the cockpit, conferring with Karen, then approached Dean. I'm Brad Johnson, senior flight attendant. Karen says there's confusion about your ticketing. No confusion, sir. Everything was verified at check-in. We have protocols. First class requires validation for unaccompanied minors. We need to contact your parent. FAA regulations don't require that for passengers 12 and older. Brad's smile faltered. Nevertheless, airline policy allows independent travel at my age with proper documentation, which I provided. Is there a specific violation? The cabin had gone quiet, watching. Brad's jaw tightened. Son, I'm being reasonable. I appreciate that. If you can specify which rule I'm violating, I'm happy to comply. Silence. Brad couldn't specify because no rule was being broken. We'll be monitoring the situation, Brad finally said, voice tight. Any disruption, any concern from other passengers, we'll take action. Understood? Yes, sir. I understand completely. 8:35 a.m. Brad Johnson questioned ticketing despite verification, referenced unspecified protocols without citation, implied threat of removal, Dean noted. His hands trembled. He closed his eyes, breathing slowly. Stay centered. Document. Let them reveal themselves. Mrs. Patterson from 4B appeared beside his seat. Sorry to bother you, honey. I'm Mrs. Patterson. Couldn't help noticing your work. She gestured to his iPad. My grandson loves computer science. What are you building? A lifeline, humanizing him for the cabin. An AI platform for service industry feedback, Dean explained. It tracks patterns and identifies potential discrimination. That's remarkable. You built this yourself? With my development team, yes, ma'am. Your development team. She raised her voice slightly. How old are you? 12. 12 years old with a development team. When I was 12, I was learning long division. She looked around. This young man is solving real-world problems with AI. Passengers murmured appreciation. Even 3C nodded with something like respect. What's it called? Mrs. Patterson asked. Equitravel. It monitors equity in travel experiences. We certainly need that. She patted his shoulder and returned to her seat. Dean saved the conversation, not as evidence of wrongdoing, but of witness. She had seen and chosen to act. Through his window, pristine clouds stretched endlessly. Dean returned to his code, building systems to prevent what he was experiencing. His father's words echoed, "They'll doubt you because of your age and skin. Don't fight those doubts. Build something undeniable." Dean was building. In hours, when truth came to light, everyone in this cabin would see him clearly. But first, endure, document, survive. Turbulence hit. Dean stored his devices and looked out at the clouds. Let them reveal themselves, he thought. They always did. An hour in, Dean opened his MacBook Pro and reviewed code for tonight's presentation, algorithms for pattern recognition in service interactions. His fingers moved efficiently across the keyboard, optimizing functions. Karen appeared without warning. "What are you doing?" "Working on my presentation, ma'am." "On what?" She stared at his screen. "Are you hacking the plane's Wi-Fi?" Dean nearly laughed at the absurdity. "No, ma'am. This is code for an application I'm developing." "Programming?" Her voice dripped skepticism. "Brad, you need to see this." Brad arrived, expression already concerned. "What's the problem?" "This child is running hacking programs. Look at that code. He could be accessing restricted systems." "I'm a software developer," Dean explained levelly. "This is AI platform development for my company. It's completely legal and unrelated to aircraft systems." "Your company?" Karen mocked. "You're 12. You don't have a company." "Sampson Development Solutions, a subsidiary of my father's firm. We specialize in AI for service industries." The cabin had gone quiet, passengers watching. Brad's face hardened. "Running unauthorized programs on aircraft is federal offense. We need to examine your devices. You don't have authority to search my electronics without probable cause, and I haven't committed any offense." "We have a minor running suspicious code during flight," Karen said. "That's plenty of cause." "It's not suspicious. It's HTML, JavaScript, and Python, standard programming languages. Would you like me to explain?" "I'd like you to close that computer now," Brad commanded. Dean's jaw tightened. He was being ordered to hide his abilities, make himself smaller, less threatening simply because his competence didn't match expectations. Slowly, he saved his work and closed the laptop. Before putting it away, he noted, 9:47 a.m., accused of hacking while doing legitimate development. Ordered to cease work. Threatened with federal charges without basis. "Phone 2, Karen pointed. "All electronics away." "The seatbelt sign is off. Electronics are permitted. Not for suspicious activity." "There is no suspicious activity. You're imposing restrictions that don't exist in FAA regulations." Brad stepped closer, voice a threatening growl. "Listen carefully, son. You can cooperate or we can have law enforcement waiting. Your choice. But I'm not letting some punk kid with a stolen credit card and delusions of grandeur disrupt my flight." Punk kid, stolen credit card, delusions of grandeur, each phrase designed to demean, delegitimize. Dean put his phone away, hands trembling. He'd faced skepticism his entire life, but trapped at 35,000 feet with nowhere to go, it was harder to breathe. "Thank you for your cooperation," Brad announced to the cabin. "Folks, I apologize for the disturbance. We take security seriously. We appreciate your patience while we address potential threats." Potential threats. Dean had been redefined from passenger to danger, his crime being existing while displaying competence that didn't match stereotypes. Mrs. Patterson raised her hand. "Excuse me, but that young man was simply working. I saw his screen. Legitimate programming, not anything dangerous." "Ma'am, with respect, you're not qualified to make that assessment," Brad replied smoothly. "Neither are you, apparently. Anyone with technology experience would recognize software development." Brad's smile turned icy. "I'm asking you to remain in your seat. Further interference will be noted in our incident report." The threat silenced her. She looked at Dean, mouthed, "I'm sorry." Dean nodded. She'd risked Brad's ire to defend him. That mattered. Karen retrieved a clipboard. "Brad, I need to document this. What's his full name?" "Dean Sampson," Dean provided. "Parents' names? Contact information?" Dean hesitated. His father's name might trigger recognition. Michael Sampson was prominent in tech, but Dean wasn't ready to reveal that yet. Not until he understood how they'd treat someone perceived as powerless. I'd prefer to provide that through proper airline channels after landing. Karen's eyebrows shot up. You'd prefer? That's not how this works. You're a minor who caused a security incident. We need parent information now. I haven't caused any incident. You've made unfounded accusations. The accusation is refusing crew instructions, Brad interjected, which is federal offense. So one more time, parent name and number. The trap. Reveal his father's identity prematurely or refuse and escalate their perception of him as non-compliant. Michael Sampson. Reach him through Sampson Technologies' main line. It's publicly listed. Karen typed the name, then froze. Eyes widened. She showed Brad, whose expression shifted. Surprise, confusion, then concern. But instead of backing down, Brad doubled down. Sampson Technologies. Major firm. You're claiming your father is the CEO? I'm not claiming anything. You asked. I provided both. Right. And I'm Bill Gates' son. Brad's tone made clear his disbelief. Lying about identity makes everything worse, kid. I'm not lying. Sure. Karen had recovered. You know how many kids claim famous relatives for special treatment? We see it constantly. Dean said nothing. Truth was irrelevant when they'd already decided who he was. Here's what's happening, Brad announced. I'm filing an incident report. Disruptive passenger, security threat, refusal to comply, possible identity fraud. Airport security will meet the aircraft when we land. They'll sort out who you really are and why you ran suspicious programs. Each word another weight on Dean's chest. 12 years old, had done nothing wrong, traveling to speak about fighting discrimination, treated like a criminal because he didn't fit their expectations. Dean opened his mouth, closed it. His father's advice. Sometimes the most powerful thing is letting them finish revealing themselves. So he sat quietly while Brad and Karen constructed their narrative. He watched them perform authority, saw passengers' reactions, concern, indifference, some nodding agreement, and he documented everything. Not with phone or computer, forbidden now, but in his mind. Every detail cataloged with perfect clarity. Time, words, witnesses, threats. Because in hours, when his father's legal team reviewed this, when the airline's board discovered how crew treated their largest shareholder's son, when video from Dean's smartwatch, still recording, became public record, everyone would understand exactly what happened. Make sure he stays seated, Brad told Karen. Keep monitoring. Something about this feels off. Yes, Dean thought. Something is very off. Soon everyone will see exactly what. The plane droned toward New York. Dean looked at endless sky, remembered this flight would eventually land. That injustice, no matter how heavy, was temporary when you had truth. He just had to endure a little longer. 30 minutes of tense silence. Dean sat motionless, hands folded, while Karen and Brad monitored him like a threat. His stomach growled. Hours since breakfast, denied meal service. His phone buzzed. His father. Landing in 90 minutes. Excited to hear how the flight went. Dean typed. Flight's been interesting. Tell you more in person. Karen appeared. I told you all electronics away. That was an hour ago, based on no actual regulation. Based on suspicious behavior. Give me the phone. You don't have authority to confiscate my property. On this aircraft, I absolutely do. Hand it over, or the captain makes it official. I'm happy to turn it off and put it away, but I won't surrender it without proper cause. Karen's face flushed. Brad, we have a situation. Brad arrived with another passenger, a large man, 50s, aggressive bearing. This is Mr. Hendricks. He's expressed concerns about the young man's behavior. Hendricks crossed his arms, looking down at Dean. Yeah, I've been watching this kid. Something's off. He's texting, looking nervous, whispering. My wife and I don't feel safe. Dean stared, confused. Sir, I've been sitting quietly. I haven't whispered to anyone. Don't call me a liar, boy. You've been agitated, fidgeting, plotting. I flew F-16s 20 years. I spot threats. Every passenger watched. Dean's heart raced. This was spiraling. Multiple voices constructing him as dangerous because Karen decided he didn't belong. Sir, I haven't plotted anything. I've been sitting in compliance with all regulations. Hear that? Kid talks like a lawyer. 12 years old, working the system. Parents who don't teach respect. Kids who think rules don't apply. Mrs. Patterson stood. That's completely unfair. This young man has been polite despite harassment the entire flight. Ma'am, sit down, Brad snapped. I will not sit while you let this child be bullied. He's done nothing wrong, and you're treating him like a criminal because he doesn't look like your idea of who belongs in first class. Playing the race card? Hendricks scoffed. This isn't about race. Suspicious kid acting suspicious in post-9/11 America. We have a right to feel safe. He's 12 working on a computer. If he were white, you'd call him gifted. Because he's black, he's suspicious. The word hung, black, what everyone had been dancing around. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. The businessman in 3C studied his hands. Brad stepped between them. Everyone calm down. Mrs. Patterson, final warning, sit and be quiet, or you face your own incident report. I'd be happy to have documentation of what's happening here, Karen whispered harshly to Dean. See what you've caused? This entire cabin disrupted because of you. I should have had you removed before takeoff. I haven't caused anything. You created this by treating me differently. Differently? I've been protecting this aircraft from threats. You don't belong in first class. You probably don't belong on this flight at all. You don't belong. The subtext finally stated plainly. Hendricks pulled out his phone. I'm calling TSA's tip line, reporting suspicious behavior. They'll have agents waiting. Probably wise, Brad agreed. Multiple passengers expressing concern. Authorities need to know. Dean felt panic rising. His smartwatch recorded everything. His father's lawyers would destroy them, but right now he was surrounded by hostile adults spinning a narrative where he was the threat. I want to speak with the captain, Dean said, voice shaking. Captain's flying the aircraft. He trusts his crew. Then I want to file a formal complaint, Karen laughed. You want to complain? Kid, you're about to face federal charges and you're worried about complaining? What federal charges? I haven't violated any law. Failure to comply with crew instructions, creating disturbance, identity fraud. Should I continue? Brad ticked his fingers. You've accumulated violations since boarding. Those aren't real. You're making them up because... Dean stopped. Because why? Hendricks prompted. Dean stayed silent. His father taught him, silence was stronger when people wanted you to lose your temper. The businessman in 3C spoke up. Listen, I've been here the whole flight. The kid hasn't done anything threatening. Computer work, looking out windows, sitting quietly. This seems disproportionate. We have trained protocols, Brad replied. Multiple indicators triggered. What indicators? Being young, alone, working on a computer? None are security threats. The totality of behaviors, professional judgment. Your judgment seems remarkably selective. I've been on my laptop the entire flight. No one accused me of hacking. That's different, Karen said quickly. How? She faltered. You're obviously different. You're a business traveler. He's unsupervised. He's 12, legal to fly alone. Father's meeting him. 3C looked at Dean respectfully. Kid seems well supervised. More mature than half the adults here. Hendricks scowled. Now you're defending him? Typical liberal. Put everyone at risk because you're afraid of being called racist. I'm afraid of adults ganging up on a child for no legitimate reason. There's legitimate reason, Brad insisted. Policy violations? Name one specific policy he violated. One FAA regulation or airline policy? Not feelings, not suspicions. One concrete rule. Brad's mouth opened, closed. Silence. He couldn't name one. Sir, mind your own business. This doesn't concern you. It concerns everyone when crew abuse authority. Abuse? Serious accusation. Want to be added to the report? Keep interfering. You'll have problems when we land. 3C hesitated. Wade defending Dean versus facing consequences. He retreated. Fine. Handle it, however. He turned to his laptop. Dean felt something crack inside. The man had tried, but the cost was too high. Brad pulled out his phone. Captain, this is Brad. Situation in first class requiring awareness. Disruptive minor, multiple complaints, security concern. Recommend authorities meet aircraft. Yes, sir. Multiple violations. 12 years old. Refusing instructions. We've documented everything. Thank you. He looked at Dean with grim satisfaction. Captain's briefed. Airport security, TSA, and police waiting at the gate. They'll escort you off first. Your parents contacted through proper channels. Dean's hands shook, composure cracking. This had escalated beyond anything imagined. Multiple adults collaborating to paint him as dangerous. I want to call my father. Your father will be contacted by authorities. You don't make calls. That's not legal. I have the right. You have the right to remain silent, Hendricks interrupted, which you should exercise. Anything you say can be used against you. They were treating this criminally. Dean felt tears pricking, blinked furiously. He wouldn't cry, wouldn't give them satisfaction. But fear was winning. 12, alone, surrounded by hostile adults with institutional power. His father waited in New York unaware. His evidence would eventually vindicate him, but now he was powerless. The plane began descent. Seatbelt sign chimed. Brad and Karen returned to stations, leaving Dean with stares of passengers who'd participated or witnessed his humiliation. Through the window, New York approached, where he was supposed to speak about fighting discrimination, about dignity and justice. Instead, police, questioning, forced to prove his right to exist in space he'd paid for. The irony would be funny if it didn't hurt. Dean closed his eyes, documented in his mind, held on to truth that eventually justice would prevail. It had to, because if not, what hope was there? The plane touched down. Dean's smartwatch showed 2:47 p.m. The seatbelt sign chimed off, but Brad ordered everyone to remain seated. Airport authorities will board to address a security matter. Every eye turned toward Dean. Through the window, TSA agents, police, a woman with a tablet. His phone buzzed. His father, just landed, meet you in 20. Dean typed, Dad, police meeting the plane. The door opened. The woman entered. I'm Amanda Chen, airport security. We need to speak with the passenger in 2A. Brad pointed at Dean. That's him. Disruptive the entire... We'll take statements later. Amanda cut him off. She approached Dean. Son, come with us. You're not under arrest, but we need to sort this out. Dean nodded, grabbed his bag with shaking hands. Mrs. Patterson squeezed his hand. Truth always comes out, baby. He walked the aisle. At the door, Brad smiled. Hope this teaches you about respecting authority. Dean looked at him. I hope it teaches you something too. On the jet bridge, his phone rang. His father. Dean, what's happening? They're saying I was disruptive. I wasn't. I documented everything. Are you safe? Just scared. Do not answer questions without me. Invoke your right to have your parent present. I'm 10 minutes away. I'm proud of you. We'll fix this. Amanda led Dean into an office. One officer gestured to a chair. Dean remained standing. I'd like to wait for my father before answering questions. Amanda nodded. That's your right. Your father's name? Michael Sampson. Recognition flickered. Michael Sampson of Sampson Technologies? Yes, ma'am. She typed on her tablet, showed her screen to colleagues. Their expressions shifted. Show me identification? Dean provided ID, boarding pass, ticket. Amanda studied them, energy in the room changing. Can you tell me what happened? I'd prefer to wait, but I recorded everything on my smartwatch, video and audio, the entire flight. It's legal. Single-party consent. Amanda's eyebrows shot up. You recorded it? Yes, everything is documented. The door burst open. Michael Sampson strode in, commanding presence, barely controlled fury. I'm Michael Sampson. That's my son. This interview ends now. Clear? Amanda extended her hand. Mr. Sampson, Amanda Chen. We're trying to understand what happened. Michael moved to Dean, arm around his shoulders. You okay? Yeah, Dad. Michael turned. My son boards legally, travels alone as permitted, and he ends up pulled off by authorities? Explain. We received reports from crew about disruptive behavior, security concerns. What exactly was he accused of? Amanda consulted her tablet. Running suspicious programs, refusing crew instructions, creating disturbance. My son is a software developer working on code for tonight's presentation at Tech Innovators Conference about using AI to combat discrimination in service industries. The irony. We're following protocol. My son was racially profiled from the moment he boarded. The crew decided a black boy in first class must be there by mistake, must be a threat. So they manufactured a crisis. Michael pulled out his phone. My legal team is pulling flight records, preparing subpoenas. But we might not need that because my son recorded the entire flight. Every official stiffened. Completely legal. It shows minute by minute how my son was treated. Every denied service, accusation, threat. Michael looked at each official. Does this end here, or does this become a federal lawsuit, media circus, and case study? Silence. Michael's phone rang. Richard Thornton. He answered on speaker. Richard. Michael. I got a call about an incident involving your son. Your crew spent 2 hours harassing my 12-year-old because they didn't believe a black child could be in first class. They accused him of hacking, threatened charges, had police waiting. Silence. Jesus. Michael, I'm so sorry. Where are you? Airport security office with my traumatized son. Put me on with whoever's in charge. Michael held the phone toward Amanda. Whatever Richard said made her pale. Yes, sir. I understand. No charges. Resolved. Immediately. Absolutely. Richard's voice came through, furious. Michael, emergency board meeting tonight. Crew suspended immediately. I want to personally apologize. This is unacceptable. We'll talk about accountability later. Right now, I need to get my son out, get him food, help him recover for his presentation. Of course. I'm horrified. There will be consequences. There better be. Michael ended the call. He turned to Amanda. Are we done? We're done. I apologize. You're free to go. Dean paused at the door. Miss Chen, I'll share the recording, not for revenge, but so other kids know they can document it. Demand justice. Truth matters. Amanda nodded. Very brave. Outside, Dean leaned into his father. I was so scared. I know, but you did everything right. I'm so proud. Michael stopped, turned Dean to face him. Karen Mills and Brad Johnson are finished. The airline will implement protocols based on your Equitravel platform. Tonight, you give that presentation. People need to hear it. Tonight? I don't know if I can. You can, because you're Dean Sampson, and you survived something that would break most adults. Can you do it? Dean thought about the fear, Mrs. Patterson's hand, the truth recorded on his wrist. Yeah, I can do it. That's my son. Now let's get food. Dean's phone buzzed. Email from Mrs. Patterson. I gave my statement to security. I told them everything. You were brave. Keep fighting. Keep building. Keep showing them what brilliance looks like. Michael read it, eyes bright. Witnesses matter. Truth matters. Justice comes. Dean grabbed his suitcase, caught his reflection. Wrinkled suit, exhausted eyes, but still standing. Still here. Still ready. The presentation was in 4 hours. Dean Sampson had a story to tell. 1 week later, Dean watched the airline's press conference from his bedroom, father beside him. Richard Thornton stood at the podium. After thorough investigation, we concluded our crew engaged in unacceptable discriminatory behavior. Effective immediately, Karen Mills and Brad Johnson have been terminated. Dean felt his father's hand on his shoulder. All flight crew will undergo mandatory anti-bias training. We're adopting Dean Sampson's Equitravel platform to monitor discriminatory patterns. And we're establishing a $2 million fund to support organizations combating discrimination in travel industries. Dean's phone exploded. Marcus texted, Fly with Dignity is trending #1. Twitter erupted, hundreds of thousands sharing similar stories, demanding change. Michael pointed to a news article. Brad Johnson faces industry blacklist. Multiple airlines confirmed they wouldn't hire him. His career was over. Another article, Karen Mills faces civil lawsuit from advocacy groups. Real consequences, Michael said. Dean nodded but felt complicated. They lost everything. Is that what I wanted? What did you want? I wanted the system to change, not just punish 2 people. Look, Michael showed the airline's new training program. System-wide training for 15,000 employees. Your platform monitoring entire operations. $2 million fund. That's systemic change. But they lost their jobs. That's appropriate consequences for their choices. You can want systemic change and accountability. Karen and Brad had opportunities to stop. They chose not to. Amanda Chen from Airport Security called. Based on your case, TSA is implementing new protocols requiring more evidence before deploying security. Your courage changed that. Thank you. Richard Thornton video called. Dean, your experience showed how much work we have to do. I'm personally committed to preventing this. The Equitravel platform. Our team reviewed it. Brilliant. Would you consult on implementation? Paid at industry rate. Dean glanced at his father, who nodded. Yes, sir. Another notification. His presentation won the Youth Innovation Award. 3 hotel chains and 2 airlines requested demos. You're changing the industry, Michael said. At 12. On screen, a reporter asked about Karen and Brad. Richard answered, This is about accountability. If they engage in meaningful reflection and training, I hope they find paths forward serving others with respect, but not at our airline. Dean felt relief. Accountability without vindictiveness. Consequences with possibility of redemption. Days later, other Flight 447 passengers came forward. 3C expressed regret. Jessica, the flight attendant, supported Dean. Fly with Dignity became a movement. Equitravel received venture capital interest. But the moment that meant most, an email from Marcus W., age 11. Last week, a flight attendant treated us badly. I remembered your story. I stayed calm, took notes, reported it. The airline apologized and is investigating. You showed me I have power. I don't have to accept being treated badly. You changed what I think is possible. Thank you. Dean showed his father. Michael's eyes were bright. That's the real victory. That child now knows he has power. You gave him that. Dean saved it in a folder. Why it mattered. Over weeks, dozens more arrived. Kids and adults inspired to document, speak up, demand dignity. Karen and Brad faded from news. Their consequences were real, but Dean thought about them less. What mattered was the change. The system wasn't perfect, but it was better. Measurably better. For Dean Sampson, that felt like justice. Not revenge, not bitterness. Justice. Bending systems toward equity, empowering the powerless, demanding the world live up to its ideals. He was 12, and he'd changed an industry. More importantly, he'd shown other kids they could too. 3 weeks later, Dean recorded a message for Equitravel's launch, wearing the same Armani suit from the flight. I'm Dean Sampson, 12 years old. 3 weeks ago, I was questioned, monitored, accused, and met by police. Not because I did anything wrong, but because flight crew couldn't see past assumptions about my age and skin color. He paused. I didn't want anyone fired. I wanted dignity. To sit in my seat without proving I deserved it. To work without being accused of hacking. To exist without justifying my existence. His hands rested in his lap, the same posture from the flight. Discrimination isn't always loud. It's in smiles that don't reach eyes. Extra questions others don't get. Assumptions you're in the wrong place. These microaggressions accumulate until you wonder if they're right. His voice strengthened. But every kid needs to know you belong. Wherever you are, if you have the right, you belong. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't accept mistreatment. You have more power than you think. He held up his smartwatch. This recorded everything. Documentation made the difference between my word and undeniable proof. When you experience discrimination, document it. Note times, words, witnesses. Truth matters. Evidence gives truth power. He leaned forward. Equitravel isn't about punishment. It's about patterns. Using technology to identify discrimination. Giving companies tools to address it. Giving customers voice. His expression softened. To the flight attendants. I don't hate you. I'm angry, but I hope you've learned. I hope you've confronted biases. I hope you become better. His voice grew passionate. To Mrs. Patterson, who spoke up. Thank you. To everyone who's experienced this, I see you. Your pain is valid. Your demand for dignity is righteous. He smiled with hope. Change is possible. An industry changed in 3 weeks because one kid refused to accept discrimination. If I can do that at 12, imagine what you can do together. Dean looked into the camera. My father says, dignity isn't given, it's maintained. That means no matter how others treat you, maintain your dignity. Stay true to who you are. Don't let their limitations define your possibilities. He stood, smoothing his jacket. This is just the beginning. Equitravel launches today, but the real work, building equity, dismantling bias, creating systems serving everyone with dignity, continues. I'm honored to be part of it. Thank you. Dean stopped recording. His father pulled him into an embrace. Perfect. Truth without bitterness. I couldn't be prouder. Dean leaned into his chest, finally feeling everything. Fear, humiliation, anger. Did I do the right thing? They lost everything. Michael looked into his eyes. You documented discrimination. You demanded accountability. What they lost was consequence of their actions. You gave them what they refused you. Truth. Dean nodded. His phone buzzed. Another email. A mother whose daughter used his story to report school discrimination. The school implemented new protocols. One child's courage multiplied. Dean felt something settle. Not closure, but purpose. His pain hadn't been wasted. Dad, I'm ready to just be a kid for a while. Michael smiled. Perfect. But Dean knew he'd never be just a kid again. He'd been changed, forged into something stronger. Maybe that was necessary. The world needed people who experienced injustice and chose not to become bitter, who healed systems, who proved worth through excellence. Dean Sampson was 12, ready to change the world. One documented interaction, one demanded dignity, one empowered kid at a time. Equitravel went live at 9 a.m. Dean watched. 10 users, 50, 500. Within an hour, 2,000 downloads. Comments flooded. Already documented 3 instances. Time for change. We signed up for business version. Thank you. Mrs. Patterson texted. Downloaded. So proud. Marcus burst in. Equitravel trending #2 worldwide. You're changing industries. Every black kid just watched you show we don't have to shrink. Amanda Chen called. TSA is talking about partnering. You're reshaping how we work. Michael showed him news. Karen Mills being interviewed. I owe Dean an apology. I made assumptions based on how he looked. I was wrong. I've been in therapy, taking courses, volunteering. Dean, I'm sorry. You deserved better. Every child does. Dean sat silent. She's doing the work, Michael said. Real accountability includes change. Dad, can we add resources for people called out? Education? Change? You want redemption in the system? Yeah, punishment without growth creates bitterness. That's wisdom. Let's do it. Tech conference announced $50,000 prize. Marcus whooped. You're rich. $25K to fund supporting kids. $25K to redemption feature. Dean typed a message. From Dean Sampson. You have power. Document. Speak up. Demand better. This isn't just apps. This is you deciding dignity matters. You refusing to accept discrimination. You being the change. Download Equitravel. Document. Rate honestly. But more. Live loudly. Take up space. Excel. Be brilliant, bold, unapologetically yourself. That's the revolution. Dignity isn't given, it's maintained. But dignity is shared. When I stand up, I make it easier for you. When you document, you make it harder for others. We're together. Next time someone treats you unfairly, don't accept it. Document, report, demand accountability. To adults, we're watching. We're documenting. We're building systems outlasting your comfort. Join us or be left behind. Change is coming. Not asking, demanding, building, refusing to wait. I'm Dean, 12 years old. Not a hero. Just a kid refusing injustice. If I can, so can you. Dignity isn't given. It's coded into the system we build together. Fly with dignity. Equitravel. Justice in Action responses flooded. Used Equitravel to report school discrimination. Principal listened. Thank you. 2.3K likes first time I feel I have power. 5.7K likes I'm 47 crying. Watching this child makes me braver. 18.9K likes Dean wiped tears. Connection, purpose. You did it, Marcus said. That's my son, Michael said, eyes bright. Dean smiled. Ready for math homework now. They laughed. Because Dean was 12, he'd launched a platform, stood up to discrimination, become a symbol. But also still a kid with homework, a best friend, a father's love. Maybe that was most powerful. Change the world and still be yourself. Demand dignity while being joyful. Fight injustice while being a child. Dean closed his laptop, grabbed his backpack, headed for algebra. The revolution could wait an hour, but it was coming. Unstoppable.